All right. Hello, everybody. I'm here with Debby Kaspari, and really excited to talk to you. You were a teacher at the Wild Wonder Conference, and I must admit, ever since John Muir Laws told me about your website, I've been looking at it and always really appreciate the way you depict tropical subjects. So thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Great. So we're going to talk about some nature sketching stuff. We're going to talk about some of the media that you use, and we're going to talk about some of your experiences sketching in nature. And we're going to talk about this trip that you just got back from recently, right?
Yeah, I just got back from Costa Rica where I was teaching a field sketching class. It was absolutely wonderful. It was in the southwest corner of Costa Rica, so it's on the Pacific side, and beautiful lowland tropical forest, squirrel monkeys, beautiful, absolutely beautiful birds, and we had these great participants. I had 8 students,
Awesome.
some of whom were professional illustrators. We just had a really good time.
Great. Well, we have a very visual audience here, and I'm just going to say hi to some of the people in the chat while I'm looking over. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Susan. Let us know if you have any questions. But since we do have a visual audience, I think a good way to start out is maybe you can share some recent pages or some pages from your sketchbooks and tell us maybe a story about one of the a recent outing.
I'd love to. Okay, so this I have a couple of sketchbooks here from the course in Costa Rica, and actually let me get that set up here.
All right, so we're gonna switch to the document camera then. Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the document camera, and you can see this was absolutely a beautiful place. One of the things about it that was really neat was waterfalls that we could hike up to and then swim in after we finished sketching. Wow. So this was really fun. Yes, this is pencil and white pastel, and we just sat by the side of these amazing waterfalls, and then let's see. Oh, okay, so.
Wow.
This was so wonderful. Okay, so it was a hot day, and after we got done sketching up here, we put down our sketchbooks and we went and swam in those waterfalls, and it was maybe one of the better sketching experiences I've ever had. So
wow.
So that was really neat. Let's see. This is a gouache. I'll hold it up a little bit higher. This is just a gouache painting from another waterfall. So just getting to sit by the sides of these beautiful rivers, where it's really peaceful, and you can have bird songs, and you have wonderful things happening around you, but it's just very peaceful. Here's I don't know if you can see this whole thing. That's a giant strangler fig, also in pencil and pastel, but it was this forest up in the mountains, and of course I like to draw birds. So this was also this is watercolor. These are live sketches through the binoculars. This is a slate-throated redstart, and it was displaying in the most wonderful way. It was just like in a sunbeam, and it was like leaping into the air and then flipping over and then landing back in the sunbeam, just over and over. And it was I was just trying to capture that, and it had these tail feathers that just sort of unfolded like a fan, and you could see the white in them, and they were just a wonderful bird. And these are some of the ground-dwelling sparrow-like birds called bush finches that were there. So yeah, there's very neat things.
Great.
On the tropics. Tell you, so you go to the tropics too, and I understand that you've recently been there.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I spent let's see, last year I was in Galapagos, June and July, and then I was in mainland Ecuador from August until um, the end of October, and then I went to Costa Rica for November and December, and then I went to Panama. I went to the Bocas del Toro archipelago for most of January, and now I'm in San Diego. And I am planning on getting back there again soon. And I think that's one of the things, like during Wild Wonder Conference, I was in Ecuador, and I saw that. I was really excited when I saw that you're going to be teaching. And one of the things that I actually talked about on my YouTube channel during the month of Wild Wonder is how to copy another artist, or how to take another artist, where it's so easy to look at someone's work and be like, wow, that's so amazing. I could never do that, or wow, that's so amazing, and just kind of end there. But how can we like look at someone else's work and learn from it? So that's one. I've definitely looked at your stuff a fair amount, and tried to figure out like, okay, what's going on here? How can I, imitate some of this? So a couple of the things that I wanted to ask then are about media. So um, I think this is something that people can talk about forever. And a lot of times in the discussion forums for nature journaling and for nature sketching, field sketching, plein air, people end up talking about different media so much. So um, how many different types of media do you use regularly, just to start? And then I have some more follow-up questions.
I use a lot of different mediums. I do pencil primarily, sort of as a
Mm-hmm.
starting point. But I also do, I love to do pen and ink in the field. I love to do pencil with watercolor wash. And recently I've started adding gouache to my
Mm-hmm.
watercolors. And I actually only take
Okay.
like a little tube of white and then add it to my watercolor palette, and to mix the opaque colors using that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Pastel and pencil is a big thing for me. That's a that's a whole different medium, but it's wonderful about it is that it has this big range, and
Mm-hmm.
and you can really play with it. And I also like working big in the field,
Mm-hmm.
as well as small. But with certain mediums, I can really expand the real estate. I can just get uh,
Right.
actually pretty large sheets of paper out in the field. So that
Mm-hmm.
um, I guess that's you know my regular field mediums would basically be both dry and wet mediums. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I also recently I've been painting oil plein air, but I don't consider that
Mm-hmm.
really field sketching. It's more of a
Mm-hmm.
paint.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So my next question then is, what changes when you go from one medium to another, and what doesn't change?
I think it's kind of like switching languages or switching musical instruments. Let's say, going from guitar to ukulele, or you have to sort of start thinking a little bit differently, or seeing a little bit differently when you switch mediums.
Mm,
So when I'm looking at something, um, and I'm going to do it in pastel and pencil, I start thinking that way. I start thinking more in terms of line plus tone.
mhm,
And if I'm doing, uh, say, pastel, pure pastel, I think actually in flat shapes, which is, I don't know if that
mhm,
makes any sense, but um, adding the pencil into the mix, it just, the whole thing becomes linear. And if you want to
mm.
see something that is like really linear, a whole approach that is extremely linear, I use pen and ink in the field. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
have some examples here actually. Hold on, let
oh,
me
great.
let me see if it will. Oh, this is
Yeah, there you
oh,
go.
here we go. This would be a great example of that, of linear.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So you're
Yeah. Okay.
so is that how conceptual or intellectual is that switch for you, or is it sort of automatic? Like when you go from this kind of drawing with and sketching with ink,
Mhm.
that's linear, like you said, and then you go to pastel. How much of that is conscious, and how much of it is just like you kind of automatically switch?
I think a lot of it is conscious. It takes maybe a few minutes actually to get into the pen and ink head
Hmm.
coming from the pastel brain. You know,
Okay.
it's a shift, a mental shift.
Okay.
But
Great.
yeah, but that
All
last one
right.
is a really good example of that. I
I
drew that.
love that one.
Yeah, I drew that up in the canopy up in the Amazon, and
Hmm.
that was really a cool place. We were at a field station, kind of like La Selva, but it was
Hmm.
this one place in the Peruvian Amazon that has a canopy walkway system, and there's like
Hmm.
14 trees connected by rope walks. And if you're there, you have access to. And I stayed up. Basically, I stayed in the treetops for 3 weeks almost while I was there, and there were so many beautiful things in the canopy. I mean, the whole world is different up in the treetops. You know, you have
Hmm.
things in bloom, and you have tanagers, and you have a whole fauna and flora that you don't see down below in the shadows, which is,
Yeah.
you know, the entire ground floor of a rainforest.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. Yeah, that's what I was training for in Panama, was canopy access techniques. So
Oh, how
it
cool.
is really, yeah. And so I spent a whole month training on that. And after, I think the first 2 weeks, I didn't bring any of my sketching stuff up. But after maybe it was just a week and a half, and then after I sort of got used to dealing with the like harnesses and all of the
Yeah.
knots and everything, I started experimenting with bringing different nature journaling and sketching supplies up with me. And it was really fun. So I want to do more of that in the future. So let's talking about the media again, because I think this is a stumbling block for a lot of people. Um, what are some maybe recommendations for people around choosing media? Like, how do you suggest people go about this? Because I think sometimes maybe it's just sort of accidental, or people are attracted to something initially when they're at the art store and then they buy it, or maybe their teacher, their friend uses a particular one. Do you have any suggestions for people on how to decide or how to choose, maybe based on the logistics or whatever considerations you think are important for that?
Sometimes I base that on the landscape itself. Like
Hmm.
consider, I will look at that landscape and I'll say, how do I want to depict it? So do I want to do it? Do I want to do it in watercolor or gouache? Do I want
Hmm.
to take out my pens? Is this a good habitat for pen and ink drawing? And
Hmm.
I happen to think that rainforest subjects are really good in pen and ink.
Hmm.
There's something about all that confusion and all that interaction, you know, all the chaos that a
Hmm.
really linear approach, especially a really linear black and white approach, can sometimes sort it out nicely, sort of
Interesting.
a clean way of doing it. So if I'm going to the rainforest and I have a lot of vines and a lot of stuff, you know, stuff in front of me, the pen is really it's a really good tool for doing that.
I think
And
I have a good example of that one.
okay,
That's the
yeah,
opposite, but like this one, for example, that's pretty confusing.
yes, it is.
And
That
there's a
was
hummingbird in there, folks.
yeah,
So
yeah. There's a bird in it. That one I sat on the forest floor, and I have to say that these take time. this kind of drawing, it's very meticulous. And I'm not a meticulous person or drawer or anything like that. So the way I approach this is I start with what's the layer that's in front, and then I work my way backwards into the distance. So things are overlapped properly. But it's like I leave a lot out. This is not 100% of what was there. What was there was ridiculous. This is just like kind of, boiled down. And it also, I should tell you, this took about 2 or 3 drawing sessions. So it took time to do these really complicated pen and ink drawings, but they're really absorbing, and they're almost like meditation. So to me, this is a really good way. The pen is really a good way to sort out really complicated. It doesn't have to be the tropics. It can be, just a forest or some kind of a scene that has a whole bunch of things growing out of it and going on. But yeah, I love pen for that. But I would say to somebody who's trying to decide what medium to work with, I would just say just try it. Just take a pen and see if you like it, and go draw something, and do it a few times until you kind of get comfortable with it. And then maybe pencil is your medium. Maybe you're a watercolorist. Perhaps you might find pastel to be a really good medium for you, or something similar. I would say just keep playing. Don't put pressure on yourself to be good at anything. Just make a lot of really bad drawings. Just give yourself permission to, just do stuff. It's only paper. You can keep going with it, and you can be like, I have, like 5 or 6 mediums that I really love, and work for me in different situations. And depends on what I've been looking at. Let's say I've been looking at the work of a really good watercolorist, and I get really inspired, and I'll say, okay, today I'm going to do watercolors. It's kind of what inspires you, maybe that day.
Yeah, got it. Okay, here's like a very specific thing about smudging. Do you have any tips about preventing smudging, especially for people who are doing nature journaling, might have, a sketchbook with a lot of pages?
Oh yeah. I'll show you.
Great.
Jar lid.
Oh, you showed that in your class.
Yeah, you just put the okay. Just like draw like this, and then it will slide around on your paper. It's very nice. I do that quite a lot. I also use slick paper, like a page out of a magazine. You can take a page out of a magazine, tear a page out of a magazine. It's coated paper, it's slick, and you can just fold it into fourths or something like that, and just put it under your hand. Another way is, and I was using this on the tropical trip. I have Write in Rain notebooks, and the paper is a special paper that works in humid or wet environments. And so I just tear a page out of that, and just put it under the bottom of my hand. So
great.
I agree. Smudging is not fun. Also, I use kneaded erasers for when smudging is unavoidable, and I use it to sort of dab and pick up the
Got it. Great tips there. Hopefully, Susan, you're taking notes, because that's some very pro tips there with the jar lid. Okay, so what about do you think that I think this could be looked at in different ways, but what do you say to the idea that just choosing watercolor and saying I'm only going to do watercolor, I'll get better at watercolor if I only do that, versus, if I play around with all these, because some of these techniques you can use, uh, negative shapes much more easily potentially, or some of these you have like opaque pale colors that you can put on top of dark colors, unlike in watercolor. So do you believe that just learning one thing you can actually reach a higher level, or do you think there are transferable skills or benefits to kind of experimenting with all these different things?
Um, well, I think, sticking with one thing and then really going for it is a way of elevating your skill set. Um, I'm kind of a generalist. You know,
Hmm.
I love having like a grab bag of stuff that I can play with, and so um, I have concentrated for periods of time on certain, like single mediums to where I improved and got better
Hmm.
and could see a marked improvement in that. And so I feel like I've got um, a number of mediums to play with, and that I think that
Hmm.
increases my range as a
Okay.
journaler and a field sketcher.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't ask this question in every interview, but so far it seemed like everybody that I have interviewed, I've probably done over 50, maybe more, but everybody is a generalist. I haven't had anyone say, "Oh, I'm a specialist." So I think that's kind of interesting that at least in the nature journaling community and sort of these related fields, it seems like a lot of people consider themselves generalists.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty safe thing. Um, to I don't know if it's for everybody, but and I do know people, especially in gallery art circles, who are very specific and they only do
Hmm.
like one thing, and I don't think I could do that. I
Hmm.
For me, it's a whole lot more fun to have a lot of toys.
I see a banjo back there, it looks like
Yeah,
also.
it's one of the toys.
Okay. All right, great. Well, let's move on to sort of the part about being outside. What is the hardest part? You've done sketches and plein air in a lot of different locations. What is the hardest part about it for you?
Um, Sometimes just getting there is hard.
Mm,
Depends on where you're going. I mean, you can do this anywhere in a city park or in the Amazon. Um,
mhm,
Carrying things sometimes can get hard. I have just like carried huge amounts of stuff into the field, and I've recently gotten to where I'm paring it down a little bit. But I use a backpack,
mhm,
and I have or a field bag,
mhm,
and that's one of the hard things. Um, I think weather can be a challenge. You probably discovered that.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
if it's like if it's raining, I'm probably not going to go out in the field. If it's snowing, I might, uh, depending on how warm I can dress. But I'm sort of a comfort person. But I am really good also at tuning out distractions. So, for instance, sweat bees crawling on me
Oh my God.
in the Amazon, that was okay. I could handle that. Um, there's certainly a point where I'll say no, but there's a whole lot I can withstand. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. But
Yeah,
it's
that helps.
yeah.
That helps. I definitely had some crazy, sweat bee experiences as well, where they're, like, going in my
They go
eyes,
in the
and I'm
eye.
trying to do watercolor, and it just
Yes.
wow.
Yeah. They go in your eyes, and it's like I guess I can handle bees crawling on my eyes, but
Yeah.
not for very long.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It takes energy even just to kind of tune it out, but I think, it's like anything, you get better with time. You can build up your resistance or sort of to discomforts of different sorts as
Yeah.
well. So maybe it's a good time to segue into this next question, which is, what's the craziest thing that has ever happened to you while nature sketching or field sketching?
Oh, where do I start? Okay, so this was in Panama on Barro Colorado Island. And I was just sitting quietly. And when you sit quietly, you become invisible. And that's one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that's really neat. And animals actually
Mm-hmm.
will, like walk right past you, or, like, you have these very close encounters with creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting there sketching away, and I hear this rustling, and I look over, and it's a giant weasel called a tyra, which
Oh,
is
wow.
it's maybe 4 or 5 feet long. Has a big bushy
Mm-hmm.
tail. Uh, it's kind of like a fisher or something, but
Mm-hmm.
about that, you know. And I see this tyra coming towards me on the trail, and my boots are actually on the trail. I'm sitting on the hillside next to the trail, and it's holding a mango in its mouth, and it can't see a thing. So it
Oh my gosh.
trots over my boots, keeps on going. There was
Oh.
one behind it. It had it was totally focused on the one with the mango. So it trotted over my boots and went up the trail. The last one in the line, there's 3. The last one in the line got right in front of me, and then it turned and it looked at me, and it was like it was the only one that noticed me, and it screamed, and it jumped up into a little sapling and held on for dear life and started shrieking at me in my face, like 2 feet from me. And I just, I held still. And finally, its fur was standing on end. Finally, it just sort of calmed down. Its fur went back down. And then it sort of, like backed down the sapling and then split, took off.
Wow.
And that was,
That's
it
amazing.
was a great experience. But
Wow. That is what?
stuff like that just happens,
Yes. Yeah, I think that that's my sort of preferred birding technique. We're going to talk about birding in a minute, but is to go draw a plant, or say I'm going to go draw this tree or nature journal this tree, and then just see what happens. And when you don't have the intention of looking for the animals, that seems to, I mean, it's superstitious, but it seems to work also.
I'm totally with you on that. That if you said, okay, I'm going to go sit here and draw this thing, something will come out of the woodwork. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. Okay. So what tips do you have for people who want to sketch outside more?
Um, I would say find places that go scouting. Scout out a few
Mm,
places. Maybe there's a park near you and maybe a certain time of day there's something with light on it that looks really cool. Or just find maybe 3 or 4 happy places that you can go and hang out, and no one's going to bother you, and you just take your sketchbook and a bottle of water and just sit there and see what happens.
mhm,
So getting outside, just pick your time and just pick one of your favorite places.
mhm. Great. Good tip. Oh, before I forget, I think it was a week and a half ago, maybe it was last Wednesday on my show. I had an interview with this woman from the Anza Borrego Desert in Southern California, and she has a plein air painting setup that she custom built to go on her bicycle.
I saw that.
And did you see that one?
Yeah,
Yeah, she was so crafty.
that's a great idea. Um,
Hmm.
a bicycle is like this perfect tool. And
Hmm.
I've done that where I just kind of, like not that elaborately, but I just fixed up, my bicycle so that the rack could be a table,
Mm.
and
Wow.
you know, you have saddlebags and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think people are clever when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to this plein air or nature journaling. People just come up with these great solutions to problems.
Mm-hmm. I need to try the bicycle stuff. I've also heard when you're on a bicycle, it has a different effect on the animals. So you can sometimes get close to certain animals on a bicycle that you might not, even though the speed of the bicyclist sometimes makes them less aware of their surroundings. I've definitely hidden in the bushes right next to the trail and observed what types of passerbys notice me, and the bicyclists don't. But it is possible certain animals, when you're on a bike, it's sort of, I don't know if it's the sound, it doesn't, they don't associate it with the threatening sort of human vibe.
Mhm.
It,
Yeah,
anyways, it's
there's no
interesting.
footsteps. Yeah,
Exactly.
and I
Yeah.
try and be as quiet as I can, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, bicycles are good. Kayaks,
Mm-hmm.
kayaks are great.
Yes. You
Um,
can get close to the birds a lot of
yeah,
times on a kayak. It's really or river stuff in every time I've been on a river boat or any type of boat on like a mangrove tour in Costa Rica, for example, I'm just blown away by how good of a location or vessel that is for nature journaling.
yeah, yeah. So have you nature journaled from your kayak, or do you kayak?
Yeah, I have nature journaled from kayaks, mostly in Northern California is where I've nature journaled from kayaks. I've nature journaled on like large rafts, on the Colorado River. And then I have been on like a variety of different boats. I've nature journaled on like a boogie board, paddle board. The hardest part for me with kayaks and paddle boards is the drifting,
Yeah,
and trying to control that without like, just losing the direction you're facing in. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there as well. I did a whole video how to nature journal on kayak, at least
I saw
a
that.
couple videos about it. Yeah, okay, cool.
And
All right, well, yeah,
oh, I was
go
going to
ahead.
say the solution for the drift. There's these clamps with a
Mm.
rope, and you just tie it to your. You clamp onto something in the water, like a stick or
Mhm.
a tree or something coming out of the water.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I parked in floating vegetation
Hmm.
a couple times, and the thing that I want to try as well is I think that if you're it didn't work on the paddle board very well, but like on a boogie board, or they also have these things that they fish from that are like inner tubes. If your feet are in the water, like the fishermen use those inner tube things because their feet are in the water with fins, and they can
Yeah,
control with their feet their location while they're doing stuff with their hands. So I think that could be a
that's a good idea.
but then you have to have waders on and your legs are all in the water, so it's a little immersive.
Yeah. An immersive
Okay,
experience.
so what about people who have more of a studio practice? Do you have any recommendations? And I assume you have a robust studio practice as well. Do you have any recommendations for how to like combine those or synthesize them or use one to inform the other?
Yeah, because I do studio work from field sketches too. So
Okay.
and I'm always experimenting with with that. I'm finding that doing the field sketch in a medium that's similar to the studio work
Hmm.
is really a good way of helping you interpret what you've seen. So, so for instance, I have a whole bunch of gouache landscapes, little landscapitos in gouache
Mhm.
that that really translate well to oil. So, I
Mm.
mean, they're both opaque. The colors,
Mhm.
you know. So you've already done the hard work in the field. You've composed
Mhm.
it. You've captured the light. Um, you've you've gotten the values and the color. So when you go to the studio with it, you can do it as is, or you can maybe manipulate it in the computer. which is a good thing to do.
Right.
So those are different ways you can repurpose your field sketches. Just I don't think there's any one way to do it. I think it's just you have to experiment and see what works. For you.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the idea of doing a similar medium in the field as what you're planning on sort of working on when you get home, but that makes a lot of sense for that to be translatable. Okay, cool. All right, let's talk about birding a little bit. It sounds like that is an important part of your sort of nature connection practice as well. How do birding and nature sketching relate to each other in your practice?
I think that to do bird sketches in the field, it really helps to have a knowledge of the birds and to be familiar with them. And so being a birder, and I'm not someone, I'm really not a lister. I used to keep a list, but I stopped a long time ago. But I'm really interested in the birds and learning about them, learning how they relate to other birds, learning how they use the habitat or the ecosystem, their distribution, all these different things. Once you start getting into that, and also being a birder helps you observe birds, helps you see them more explicitly. So, you have a bird in the field, and it's you're paying attention to the details. You're paying attention to the color and the proportions, and all these things that really help with your sketches.
I'm gonna put one of your. I think I have some Trogan drawings up here. Like in this drawing, you can tell that the person drawing these knows a little bit about feather groups, for example. And one thing I was looking. I recently have been trying to create a nature journaling class for the Skillshare platform, and so I was perusing some of these other drawing classes. And there was this one drawing class where you could tell the guy has a lot of experience with figure drawing, all of these different things, perspective and everything. And his main class, one of the products is a scrub. I think it was a scrub jay. He's somewhere in California. And as soon as I saw that scrub jay drawing, even though this guy is classically trained and is a good artist, I could tell that he does not look at birds. He does not know feather groups. And the drawing was completely unconvincing to me. The wings, the feathers, it was all like, you can tell when someone just makes that stuff up out of thin air, and when someone has been very carefully observing birds and knows something about the feather groups. And I that shows in this drawing here, for example.
Yeah, the feather.
I was one. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, well, I was wondering, I'm noticing these notes here that say Nescafe, and at first I thought it was you spilled coffee on your paper, but then I see that it's also pointing underneath the Trogan there. So could you explain that?
The Nescafe was spilled.
Okay.
This was in the Amazon, and I drank a lot of Nescafe, and I think I was sitting there with the cup, and I don't know why I pointed that out, but I did. So,
all right, that's I do that too, and we've all drunk a little bit of Nescafe on trips like this too. So
it's a tropical coffee, yeah.
Yeah, it's sad when you're in. Sometimes it's ironic when you're in places that have not necessarily in the Amazon, but in other places in Ecuador, Peru, or Guatemala, where they have really high quality coffee, but the local people are often drinking Nescafe or something else like that. Okay, so all right, that was a little bit about birding, and then let's go into Are you ready for the lightning round?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes.
We'll start with some sort of yes or no questions, and let me put up this the little banner here, and I think I actually even have a little. Can you make a lightning sound? Woo, nice. Okay, great. So we'll start with some of these yes or no ones, and then there's some more fun ones after that with longer answers. But Let's start with the yes or no. Is coffee an essential art supply?
No.
Okay. Organized or messy?
Messy.
Do you like sketching alone or with other people?
Both.
Okay. Does your family understand your art?
Mostly.
Snacks?
Yes.
Are you a perfectionist?
No.
Would you rather sketch plants or animals?
Animals.
Ink or graphite?
Graphite.
Do you ever put art supplies in your mouth?
Yes.
Um, Big picture or micro?
Mm-mm. Somewhere in the middle.
Okay. Would you rather go sketching and nature journaling on planet Mars or deep sea?
Deep sea.
Okay. Fast or slow?
Fast.
Okay. Yeah, your pastel workshop for you were really busting them out. Your workshop for Wild Wonder was very fast. I mean, you produced stuff very quickly. All right. What face do you make when someone walks up to you and says, "You are so talented, I could not do that"?
I go,
Okay, great. If you could go sketching with any historical figure from any time period, or prehistorical figure, who would you want to go out sketching with?
oh, since you extended it to prehistoric, I would say the whoever was doing those wonderful creatures in the Chauvet caves in France.
Great. Yeah, yeah. There is one other person has said that before, and I think saying prehistoric, yeah, okay, that would be a great one. Okay, a couple more lightning round questions here. If a genie could grant you a nature sketching superpower, what superpower would you want to have?
Um, Flight. So I could
Hmm.
sketch flying birds.
Wow. So you'd be able to fly around with them, and that would be amazing. You might need to slow time down a little bit too, or sketch extra
Another thing
fast, but
for that.
that's a good one. I mean, flight, you'd get some side benefits out of being able to fly too. So,
Yeah.
okay. Which fictional character from, you could draw from whatever sources of fiction that you like, do you think would be best at nature journaling?
A fictional character.
Could be from movies, literature.
I'm stuck here. Um, Maybe Huck Finn.
Yeah, sure. I could definitely see that. All right, and then the last one for the lightning round is in the nature journaling Olympics, which event would you compete in?
Speed drawing.
Yes. All right. Nice job. That was a good. You survived the lightning round. Yay. All right, folks in the comments, if you have what your nature journaling superpower would be, if you could ask for any superpower for nature journaling, what would it be? Type it into the live chat over here. Okay, so um, we're gonna go into a few sort of personal questions and then closing up here. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you got started with nature sketching, and sort of how that trajectory started off for you.
Okay, so I started drawing really early. My mother's an artist, gave me art supplies, and she wouldn't let me have coloring books. She said you have to draw your own. So I started drawing very young. Um, I remember maybe when I was 3, uh, consciously trying to draw sheep. That was trying to draw good sheep. So, okay, so there's a starting point. And then I immediately glommed onto birds. I don't know why. But I've always drawn, and I didn't start painting until much later, but drawing was my favorite thing to do. And also I loved going out into the woods. This is when I'm, like 9 or 10. I love going out in the woods and sitting really quietly in the woods and not even drawing, just looking and seeing what, because I discovered really early that you could go invisible. That was a superpower that you could actually attain. And you'd go invisible, and creatures, like I had a deer jump over my head.
Oh my gosh.
I looked up and there's white fur and little hooves going right over my head. Things like that sort of pushed me outdoors, and I just loved, being out in the woods. So, and I started sketching pretty early. So I have old sketchbooks from childhood, so, and birding.
Wow, that's great. I think one thing I want to point out here for folks who look at, I think I'm just going to put up a couple of your drawings again here, is, when you look at Debbie's stuff, and you might be thinking, oh my gosh, or you might just be feeling sort of blown away, or comparing yourself. Just listen to what she said about how long she's been drawing for. So putting in the time definitely makes a huge difference. I'm going to check out we've got some interesting comments here on what people would want. Jean would want to be able to see in the dark. CB who's watching on Facebook would want macro vision. So being able to zoom in on stuff, that would be cool for sure. Susan B wants to not stumble because she said that scares the bugs away for her. Susan B is really into bugs and
cool.
Participates in some of our other online nature journaling stuff.
Yeah.
Lynn wants super fast drawing. So some good ones. Thanks, folks, for sharing those.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so my next question then is, what is your dream project? You've done a lot of stuff, and people definitely check out drawingthemotmot.com to see some of the projects that Debbie's worked on. But, what would be a dream project for you if there was no, financial limits, or just basically no limits at all?
I think that the next thing, as a dream, I would love to sketch underwater. I would like to go to coral reefs somewhere, learn how to scuba dive, and draw underwater. And there's people who do this. It's actually a thing. So I'd love to do that. I think that would be. I like being in the water, and I love fish. So I think that would be the next step.
I can't wait to see when you do that, because I'm going to live vicarious through you, because I've thought about it too. And I've thought, should I do this? I've experimented with amphibious nature journaling, waterproof stuff, but I've never, snorkeled and after talking to multiple people about this, I do think snorkeling, you're going to be like bouncing. I don't think snorkeling would be enough unless it's super smooth water. But like you're saying, scuba diving, that would be amazing. And if you do it, then I'll feel like, okay, I don't have to do that one. Debbie checked it off for me. And I would love to see what you do.
You might want to do it.
I know. Well, I sort of made the decision that I would get trained in these canopy access techniques and bring be able to sketch up there, and that I would sort of give up the dream of going underwater. But I feel better now that you're doing it. I know Tony Foster, have you seen some of Tony Foster? Did some scuba diving, and then he based paintings, and he did some decent stuff underwater.
I haven't.
And there's another
to see that.
You haven't? Okay. And then there's this woman, Rita Sabler. She's more of like an urban sketcher. I tried to get her on the show as well because she posted on her Instagram some pretty good snorkeling sketches, but she was in somewhere in the Mediterranean or the Aegean, and it was very still,
Yeah.
but decent. I think colored pencils or some type of wax crayons. But
Yeah.
so far, you're my favorite candidate for taking it, because sometimes it's just really basic note taking or something. But I think if you do it, it'll be good. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out for you.
Thanks. I'll keep you posted if it happens, but that would be
Okay.
so neat.
Okay. Yeah, that would be awesome. All right. So my sort of final questions here are like wrapping this into something sort of meaningful. And we live in a world where, a lot of the nature that you connected with as a child, that sort of connection is not possible for all youth today. And we're living during what a lot of people consider the sixth great extinction. And with all of these things happening in the world today with nature, what role do you think sketching and plein air art can play in this situation that we live in today?
Well, that's a big topic, but I think that nature journaling in general, sketching from nature, direct observation of living things, helps us to develop empathy for it, those things that we're drawing, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful tree or a scene or something that becomes important to us as we're drawing it. We become immersed in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really, really hard not to care a lot about things after you've been drawing them. And so
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's important what people are doing now in terms of the nature journaling community. I think this is one of the best things that's happened in years, that this has grown to include so many people who spend time outside and just simply drawing something. And
Mm-hmm.
if you ask them, I'm sure that they really care about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, cool. Well, there's something really exciting that you wanted to share with us. You just got back from a trip, and there's going to be one coming again. So I can put the website up, and maybe you can just explain a little bit about what you're going to be doing around this time next year, or is it going to be a different month, or what's the plan?
I think it's going to be the same time, which is early
Okay.
February, and it's like a 7-day course, field course, at this wonderful tropical fields. It's not a field station, but it's like an eco lodge, not a
Mm-hmm.
fancy eco lodge, but it's a really nice, very comfortable one. In a beautiful place at the bend of a river. I'm going to be teaching different class sessions. So there'll be
Mm-hmm.
how to draw trees, how to do moving water. So we'll be up at the waterfalls.
Mm.
We'll go dive in the water after we draw. There's going to be a session on bird drawing. There's going to be sessions on doing landscapes. Just sort of like a broad coverage of different subjects and different techniques. And so we will also
Mm-hmm.
be doing watercolor. We'll be doing pencil and graphite and pastel, and these different mediums that I've been talking about. So it's a small group. I think it's limited to 8 or so people, and I
Mm-hmm.
think there's still some space. There have been signups already, but if you go to this website and check with them, you should be able
Mm-hmm.
to find out more about it. And the food is good. I should tell you,
Yay.
excellent food.
That is important too.
Yes. And they have
Yeah, so that'll be exciting. When I heard about it, I forget, I think, what's the woman's name who runs the place?
Fiona Reed, and
Right.
she's a
Yeah, I think She messaged me some months ago before and told me about your class, or maybe it was Catherine Hamilton that messaged me. And when I heard about it, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I couldn't make it, but sounds really cool.
Well, Fiona
Um,
she is a scientific illustrator and also a bat
mhm,
specialist. So
mm,
this place is actually really geared towards people who are especially interested in nature, and
mhm,
the course is geared for people who want to draw.
mhm. Awesome. That is super exciting. Okay, so the last thing then is, is there anything else that we should know, or is there anything that you want to share that I didn't ask about?
Um, I could just show you more drawings if you
Yeah,
want.
sure. Let's see a couple more drawings.
Okay. Um, let's see. You want to see some more drawings from this Costa Rica trip?
Yes, that would be perfect.
All right. Okay. Here's some wonderful hummingbirds. This was
Ooh.
a scaled ant pitta that was on the
Mm.
trail. After the course was over, I went with a couple of friends. We went up into the mountains and we
Mhm.
saw quetzals.
Oh, wow, that's still on my list of I would love
They're
to see those.
amazing birds. I'd been wanting to
Mhm.
see them my whole life and finally got to see
Mhm.
them on this trip.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. There's a mottled owl, which is
Mm.
cute. Let's see. And then of course my I guess what would you call it? My spirit bird or something. This is
Yeah.
Mott. So I finished up the trip. The last day of the trip, I got to draw the Mott. There it
Is
is.
that the turquoise browed one?
Well, they have um, no. This was once the blue crowned Mott. It's
Okay, okay, yeah.
split it off into 6 different Mott now. So this is now
Oh.
called the Lessons Mott.
Oh, right, right, yeah. I think I saw those ones. Wow, very cool. Great. Let's see, how do I get me back on here? Um, okay, well, thank you so much for making the time and joining the show today. Everyone, check out escapetosylvan.com to learn about the upcoming class. You can message Fiona if the class is not up there yet. I don't know if it's already announced on the website yet. And then also check out drawingthemotmot.com if you want to see more of Debbie's work. Thanks so much for making the time today, Debbie. That was really fun.
It was fun for me. Thanks for having me, Marley.
Yeah, maybe we can sketch in the field together sometime in the future.
That would be great. Let's do that.
Yay. All right. Thanks everyone for joining in. Bye.